The truth is that we chalk so many things up to a consequence of aging. We accept so many things in our life as a consequence of aging that are not a consequence of aging at all. They're a consequence of missing raw material in the human body. And I'll explain that. But as we get older, and this is happening in younger and younger ages, by the way, weight gain, water retention, brain fog, poor focus and concentration, lack of waking energy, poor response to exercise, poor short-term recall, all of these things that that we believe are just consequences of aging. I'm in my 30s. I don't remember things as well. I'm in my 40s. I got a spare tire around the middle, and I've got a little bit of hypertension, and I never really sleep that well.
So on that 7-year figure, how do you know that so confidently? It seems like when you give the response, it's like without a shadow of a doubt, it's 7 years. How do you know?
It's an absolute because in the big data models that we had, towards the tail end of my career, I would go in sometimes and just manipulate the model because, during my career, I wasn't actually allowed to have any contact with the patient or any contact with the treating physician. And for the record, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. And what the law provided for was when you're applying for a life insurance policy, and someone's analyzing your medical data and your demographic data, they didn't want that person all of a sudden jumping in and taking over your healthcare. But the truth is that even if I saw life-threatening drug interactions in the record, I couldn't contact the patient or the treating physician to warn them.
So what would be a life-threatening drug interaction?
So 2 different pharmaceutical medications, one prescribed by one physician, one prescribed by another physician that have what's called a contraindication. Some of the contraindications are things like thrombolytic events, which are blood clots. So throwing a pulmonary embolism, an aneurysm, a deep vein thrombosis. These are drugs that when put in combination with one another can cause severe reactions. Like, for example, some SSRIs interact with methylene blue. So looking at this vast array of pharmaceuticals that people are on and the interactions between these compounds in the human body. And one of the interesting things about pharmaceutical research is it's very myopic, it's studied in a very, very narrow vertical. So in other words, if we're just looking at cholesterol and the effect that a statin has on cholesterol, we're only looking at that outcome. We're not saying, well, what if this person is on a statin, also on high blood pressure medication, also is suffering from depression and is on an SSRI, and is also taking pain medication? Well, now you have a completely different landscape. We don't look at that. We don't look at multifactorial drugs in the human body.